Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today for Journey at Home. Do I have a story for you? You're going to get to hear from a professional musician who's also an IT guy, which means he's smarter and weirder than all of us. Let's watch together. Well, hey everybody, I am here with Scott Adams. Scott, thanks for sitting down first of all and having this conversation.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking me.
We've been doing this Behind My Journey series, and I just think it's cool to see how our lives sometimes intersect, and some of the lessons that you've learned are going to be things that some of us need to hear right now. So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Just give people a little bit of an overview of who you are and tell us a little bit about your family and what you do.
Scott Adams, I'm 37 years old, soon to be 38.
Hey, congratulations.
What's up? I am married. I have 3 wonderful children. Systems administrator, so I'm an IT nerd. You know, a gearhead on top of that, just, and of course, a drummer.
And a drummer. Yeah, so you do, you work in IT. Mm-hmm. This is what's funny. You get an IT and a musician in the same person here. So
Yep.
You've got all kinds of cool little things that
I've done a few things in life.
You've done a few things, and you got almost like 2 career tracks because you've been a professional musician and been in that world for how long?
I started playing when I was 7 years old, and then
drums.
Yes,
started playing drums.
And then
your poor family. Yeah.
My mother wanted me to play piano, so when I was 5, I took 2 years of piano, and I was.
And you earned the right to
Yes.
graduate up to drums.
I was done after that.
Yeah.
And then I started really hitting it professionally in my early 20s. I would say it would be about the closest time frame I can give you.
People are always curious about this. So before we get in this conversation, who are some of the people you played with? Tell them a little bit about some of what you've done.
The biggest thing that I probably saw the most dates with was a band called Darling Parade. A few of the members were local to here, and then the lead singer, she was from Southern Illinois, and we got to travel around, do a lot of cool stuff with that, and be on TV, and
What genre?
That would have been rock pop, kind of thing with a chick lead singer.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Okay, where'd you grow up?
Marshall County, Kentucky.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
Right here close to home.
Born and raised.
All right. So let's start here then.
Okay.
Because we know this area is Bible Belt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you had some type of experience with or around churches and around Christians. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience was like with church as you were growing up, and maybe how did that change as you became an adult?
Kind of the funny thing, I guess you could say in our house there was no separation of church and state, because I not only went to Church of Christian Fellowship most of my life, I also went to school there.
Oh,
so
it was a package deal, huh?
We were the people who, anytime the doors were open, we were there.
Okay.
And it didn't matter if it was, a prayer breakfast or what. If the doors were open, we were there.
You were there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for school too.
Yeah. So I grew up going to Christian school as well, so I understand you're inundated. I mean, it's a bubble. It
Yes,
it is a bubble. So you graduate and get out on your own. What was your experience like with church and with faith as you began to be at a point where you could make your own decisions and you weren't in this bubble anymore?
It was at first it didn't change that much, but once I realized that I was capable of making my own decision of whether or not I went and where I went, that was a big thing as well.
Yeah.
So I actually moved to a different church and served with them for a while, but church for a long time, it was all servanthood. If you didn't have a role and you weren't doing something, that was our whole purpose of being there. And so I never really got to know church from just enjoying to go. And as I got older, I found other things more appealing to do with my time on a Sunday.
More interesting for you to do at that point, right?
Yes.
So I know a little bit about your story, and we're going to get into this more in a minute.
Oh boy.
But you You know, you hit a season where you walked away, as you just alluded to.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit, because this is a story of a whole lot of people, you know, a lot of people at our church, but just a lot of people watching. Got a lot of people watching who haven't set foot in a church in a long time, and they're kind of curious. We know you're there, you know, you're checking us out, and I get it. I totally get it, because it is intimidating to walk into a church, especially if you've had some not so pleasant experiences. Can you talk just a little bit about, first of all, why you ended up walking away for a while?
I think the biggest reason was simply because I had spent so much time in the church growing up, and honest to goodness, I think more than anything I wanted a break, and I wanted to step away clean and really find out why I went. Unfortunately, there was also with one particular church some bad blood involved, and you know, humans are humans, and people tend to forget that the people who inhabit the church are very much just as human as the next one.
Not close to perfect, are
no,
we? Yeah.
No, not at all. And I took a real, I don't know, it was a good way to put that was I took real offense to what had happened, and forgot that whole aspect of just people are human.
Because we're not perfect, but when you get hurt, and that hurt is not addressed in a healthy way or in an appropriate way.
Correct.
It just pushes you away, right? All right, so in this, I'm drilling into this because I think it connects to a lot of folks. So during this season, when you're not connected strongly to any church, how did that, looking back now, how do you think that impacted your life? How did it impact your family? Just when you look back on it with some perspective, what do you think?
Really, I mean, I could take a long time to explain this one, but in a shorter roundabout way, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You know, it was a detriment to not only myself, but you know, the children that I'm raising, the wife that I was married to at the time. It was just, it put stress on. I think it put more stress on myself as the leader of the house by not being grounded somewhere than it did anything else. And because I mean, you being a dad and a husband, and you know that you are the head of the house.
I'm trying to serve them and invest in them really well.
Right, and it's hard to do that if you're not investing in yourself as well.
Yeah, that's right. You can't give what you don't have.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So I would say that's probably the biggest detriment right there, is that when you're trying to be that role and you don't have anything to fill you up to give back out.
Yep.
That's hard.
Here's what I find interesting, and it's hard to convince people of this, Scott, and I don't know if you can weigh in if you want to.
Okay.
We're just riffing here a little bit. But to me, it's easy to walk away because there are no immediate consequences to walking away.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? You don't feel like you're missing anything.
Yeah.
But what happens is you don't realize that investment you were talking about, you're missing it. And just like it has a cumulative compounding positive effect when you do it over a long period of time, when you don't have it over an extended period of time, it catches up with you eventually.
100%.
But you just don't connect those dots.
Right.
And see it. So that's why I ask you that question of perspective, because you're looking back now, and you probably look at it differently than you were in the middle of, when you were in the middle of it, right?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're a dad. You got 3 great kids. Just let's drill into that specifically, because we're releasing this on Father's Day.
Right.
So drill into that specifically. Now that you are, and we'll get to the story of how, but now that you're re-engaged with church, what impact is that having on your ability to invest in your kids, do you think?
I would say that, I mean, my kids can tell that I'm happier. I have more joy, if you will. You know what I mean? They can tell that, you know, Dad is getting to invest his time and serve and, you know, play music and be here, you know, and listen to your fabulous messages.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, that's what they love so much.
I know.
Yeah.
But seriously, I think the biggest thing is I feel more at peace myself, and they can tell that. they can tell that, you know, Dad's not struggling internally. Dad's not, you know, fighting demons over here. Dad's calm. Dad's at peace, you know.
I think you just nailed it. Because the thing I try to help people understand is if you're not at peace with God, you can't be at peace with yourself.
Yes.
Which means you can't be at peace with others.
Yep.
So everybody around you feels the impact of that, right?
Yep.
So I love the way you said that.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to let you tell this story. I want you to share with them, you know, why you re-engaged with church, particularly here. The thing I will say to set this up is, just so they know, the first time we met, we were just opening the facility.
Yes.
We had a night of worship plan, which if you remember, you drove all the way and it was terrible weather and then we canceled. And
Yep.
Yeah, you made it back safely, thankfully. And so we had our opening Sunday and we had a night of worship and all of our drummers got COVID.
Yep.
And Andy, who oversees our band, reached out to you. Y'all had a mutual friend, I think.
Yep.
So
My wife.
Yeah, there you go. So it was the first time that we had ever met you. You came in to play. And the way it turned out, you played opening Sunday for us. It's a good Sunday to be here, so that was a lot of fun. You played opening Sunday for us, and then we had a night of worship that following Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And you caught me before and said, I need 5 minutes after. And so everybody left afterwards and got done. You were up at the drums, you know, taking some stuff apart or whatever, and I walked up and said, what's up? And you told me this story, which I just thought was, I mean, it was fascinating to me. So you kind of unpacked a little bit of your story and what you were choosing to do in terms of re-engaging with faith. Can you just give people some more detail on after however long it was, and you can tell them however long, but after however long it was of not being engaged, you decided pretty quickly to re-engage.
Yeah.
So talk about that and why.
It was honestly, it was a decision that my wife and I had been talking about and struggling with, is where we were going to, you know, eventually get ourselves back into church. You know,
And what was driving that conversation, by the way? Like, what brought that up in the...
We both knew that we needed to be, you know, connected in church, and her being Episcopalian, me
upbringing.
Yeah, and me being non-denominational, there's quite the struggle there of, you know, where are we going to go?
Not common ground, right?
Yes. And I had been to church with her a few times, and it was very strict and stoic, and just, you know, you've got your movements, you've got your things
very
you
liturgical.
do. Yes, very liturgical. And then when Andy hollered at me about coming down here, I'd always been interested, you know, eager to play music with Andy. I was like, sure, I'm going to jump on that. My wife was thrilled. And even after the rehearsals, and I could tell, I was like, okay, there's some really good, you know, musicians here. That's
priority number one,
very,
right?
very attractive to me is we've got some really good musicians here. They're very focused on detail. I mean, you guys have got things planned down to the T, and I love that. I love that. It's just, again, it's, lack of a better word, it is very professional, and that's really what drew me right out the gate. And then I start talking to people and start, you know, connecting with people. I'm like, oh, this place is cool. All right, you know. And then, after the night of worship, I felt completely at home, and I've never said that in 37 years of living. I have never said that about a church that I've been in. I felt completely at peace, at home, and it took me 5 minutes to just say, whatever it is you're doing here, I'm in.
That's what you told me. You were like, hey, I just want you to know I'm all in.
Yeah.
And you had, and there's a reason I'm bringing this up, but you had caught my attention earlier because, and most people don't know this, but all of the people on our stage that serve as volunteers in our band, they're all volunteer. I mean, we're not, which is unusual for a lot of churches. You wouldn't know that. But behind the scenes, a lot of churches pay musicians, especially with the quality band we have. Ours are all volunteer. They should do it because they love it. But we do, when we have a hole, we'll contract somebody.
Yes.
And Andy had reached out to you because, you know, you didn't know us from Adam. Be like, hey, we will pay you to come play drums.
Yeah.
We need a drummer. And he had told me, hey, because we knew you were a professional guy, and he told me, hey, Scott said, you know, he wants to do this for free, which immediately caught my attention just because it said something about your heart. But then but then when you told me your whole story, and I want to say you told me it'd been like a decade since you'd been in church.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd been a long time. Like, this wasn't that you took a year or two break, right?
It had been a minute.
It had been a minute. It had been a minute. And the reason I wanted you to tell this story is because what caught me is after, years of not being involved, for somebody who's wired like you could tell that we actually believe what we do matters by how much effort we put into it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what got your attention
Yep.
first. But then it was the community of people, and I don't take any credit for this. It was the band and production folks that you hung around
Yep.
that you realized, oh my gosh, these people are genuine and they really care. And I think that's what everybody is looking for, right?
Well, not to mention, I mean, one of the first things that caught my eye when you walk in here is the nice sign that reads across, says "No judgment," and I wasn't used to that. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a new take. Okay, I like this."
Yeah. And it's been great having you and your family start to get connected here. Everybody's fallen in love with you. All right, before we wrap this up, I want to shift gears and go back to something we were talking about a minute ago.
Okay.
Being a father, okay? Challenges, lessons that you've learned over the years. Anything you'd want to share with us? What have you found to be hard about it? And what have you found that makes a difference?
The hardest thing about parenthood, period, is patience, and not, just absolutely wanting to, lack of a better term is what my mother would say, wanting to bring your child's neck.
Yes.
Patience has been the hardest thing, and I struggle with it from time to time. Every dad does. We get frustrated, we get aggravated, we tend to lash out in times that we probably shouldn't have, and I've always made sure to, in those moments, apologize to my children.
That's good.
If I have ever stepped out of line as a father and been over the top, or just in that moment where I'm in the middle of something and they're wanting this and it just clashes.
Because we're not perfect, right?
We're not perfect.
Yep.
And I have made it my best effort to, in those moments, realize it, and I might not address it then.
Yeah.
But I will address it, and just the looks on their faces whenever hey, Max, I was out of line. I'm sorry. I will do better to be better.
Sure.
And that's had a huge impact on them too, I can tell. Not only for myself of just learning, okay, you're getting close to wanting to,
Yes.
raise your voice,
Yeah.
and learning to step back and be more patient would probably be.
What I absolutely love about that, and you just touched on it, you're actually modeling and teaching your kids humility.
Yep.
They'll never be humble enough to apologize unless they've seen it modeled and know it's okay to do it.
Right.
And they're watching dad, who they admire and who seems like a strong guy, who's willing to come around to them. And you're probably not as bad as me. I feel like I'm apologizing to my kids all the time, right? So if any kid should know how to apologize, this should be my two.
Yeah.
But I think by them seeing that and it being normalized, then they learn that.
Right.
They catch a lot more than we give them credit for. So I absolutely love that.
And I think it really impacts too whenever you do step out and you do need to apologize. It also, reaffirms the times where you actually are truly disciplining.
Yeah.
And I've noticed it.
You can separate the
Yes.
two, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, last question. For the people who are watching this, and they are right where you were, quite honestly, just a few months ago, they've been out of church. Maybe they've been out of church for quite a while. Maybe they've tried it, had bad experiences. Everybody's got very valid reasons
Yep.
for the decisions they make. But they're like you, they're sitting there, maybe they're realizing, hey, I think we need this, but I don't know how to go about it, or I'm scared or concerned. I don't know if we can find the place where we're comfortable. What advice would you give somebody who's there, who's like, man, I don't know if I need this, or I do, but I don't know what to do? What would you say to them?
I'm very much a just jump in and find out person.
Okay.
So for anyone who has reservations, I might have trouble connecting with them, just because, like I said, if it's available to go do, I'm sure, let's go, And that's probably the biggest thing, is you're not going to know until you do it
You got to take a step.
You're not going to know
out,
until
right?
you do it. You're not going to know until you go, until you at least, give it a few times and be like, okay. Because one time in a church, you might figure it out first time. 2 times in a church, you're getting more of an idea.
Start to get an idea.
Yeah, and so forth. So
and it really is okay to walk in, to check a place out, and to go, man, this is not the kind
absolutely.
of community, this is not the kind of movement I want to be a part of, and just go try something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We lose that a lot around here, especially because people who grew up in this area know that you were a lot of time defined by which church you went to.
What church you went to, that's right.
And some places it's what high school did you go to, this, that, the other. Around here it's what church you go to.
Yes, it is.
And so to say that, where it's not a bad thing to go and see, do I like this one? Do I like that one? As long as you find one that you like and you connect with, really that's what it's about.
That's helpful to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You made such a great point with that, because I joke that people think everybody in our communities go to church somewhere, because if you ask them, they will give you a church. And the church is the church that they grew up in or their grandmama still goes to.
Right.
And they don't really go, but
Right.
you're defined by it, right?
Yep.
So you feel like you have to have an answer. So I love that. It's okay just to try something different.
Oh, absolutely.
And to see. So if that's you, if nothing else, you can come watch Scott drum. He's worth the trip just to see him drum. Speaker is questionable, but the first 15 minutes of the service are phenomenal.
The guy
right?
in between, right there in the middle.
Yeah. Hey, listen, thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Excited to be a part of this journey with you. Really excited to see what God's doing in your life and in your family. And I think the advice you gave all of us, especially us dads, is phenomenal. So appreciate you sharing.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys next time on Journey at Home.